Welcome back. So now that we picked Angular Material as our framework, we need to install it, right? So I'm going into Angular, material.angular.io, the getting started guide right here, and then we have to follow these steps. Now we're using the Angular CLI command line interface, so we can just run this step by step using the npm in our case. Yarn is just another installation tool instead of npm that you can use, but I'm just going to focus on the node package management system right here. And we have to run this command first to kind of get most of the things we need to kind of get running with Materialize inside our Angular application right here. So let's just jump into the application. I've cleaned this out, no more bootstrap in there at all. So I'm just going to run from scratch right here. There we go. Now I'm going to run the first command, npm install save Angular material. That's for the material part. CDK, that's a command toolkit. And then the last one is animations, because I want to be able to do some of the animations that you saw in the last videos for Materialize, right? Like floating information, we do drop down and stuff like that. It's all animations. And for that, you need the animations library inside Angular. If you want to, you can actually use an alternative one where you kind of go and take a specific version of Materialize design if you want to. Now, we're not going to do that. We're just going to keep the default version. We can also use the dev kit. Now, we haven't used that right here in alternative 2. We're not going to do that either. So let's just jump to step 2. Now, the step 2 is actually enabling animations so that we can start using all these beautiful, beautiful animations that we saw earlier. We need to kind of add this module in our main module right here. So I'll go to my app module and I'll add this animation module, browse animation module right here from Angular actually. So we can start using animations inside our application. Sweet. What else do we need? This one is actually, if you don't want to use animations, you can actually add this and then it'll automatically disable animations and make your application run. This could be used if you have older browsers that doesn't support the animations. You can add this guy and he'll actually just, instead of having a floating button, it'll just pop up instead, right? Stuff like that. Sweet. What else do we need? Well, now we can start importing the different modules that we want. So after the installation up here is done, the first installation we did, we can actually start adding specific modules now like we did with Bootstrap. So if we want a button, we can add the button module. Let's just try and start with that one. So I'm going to add that module in here. There we go. Mat button module, so we can use that later on. Sweet. Now there's also explanation on how you can make a module that just contains all your different all your specific Materialize modules in one big module, and that could make sense. So we might get back to that later, but not right now. Then the fourth step is you have to include a theme. Luckily, it's very simple. These are one of the pre-built themes in there. There are some others to pick from, and here you just have to put that under your style CSS or SCSS file inside Angular. So let's just copy this import right here and jump into Angular. And if you scroll down, there's a style CSS right here in kind of the root of your Angular app right here. There's a style, under the source, there's a style CSS available right here. And I'll just paste that import in. That's all I have to do. Sweet. Now jumping back, it actually says that there's also a way you can actually add a link inside your index.html, and there's a theming guide right here if you want to kind of dive into this theming guide. Now, if you want gesture support, you need to have Hammer.js available as well. And let's just add that for now because we're in here anyway, so we can get gesture support later on. Let's just paste the npm install Hammer.js. Just another JavaScript, third-party JavaScript library that you need to kind of have gestures. You kind of need like mat slider, tooltip, stuff like that. You need Hammer.js, so let's just add it. And to again to use that is very simple. You just actually add the import inside your source main TS. You don't have to worry about that right now, why you have to do this. You can dive into that later. You don't have to understand why you need it right now. So where's that main TS residing? It's on the source, main TS. Let's have a look on the source, and here we have a main TS right here, and I'll just do the import right here. There we go. That's all I had to do. So now we've also gesture support for those libraries, and then you can add some icons if you want to. I'm going to use Font Awesome later on. I think that's more fun, so I'm not going to do that. And then if you don't have, you can actually use something called System.js, outdated stuff, so we don't want to do that right now. Sweet, that's all I had to do. Let's just, before we end this lesson, try and add an actual button to see if it works. Going into components, going to find buttons down here, going to pick a button. Now again, there's a lot of great information on how to use buttons, especially for each of the buttons you can go to examples. Oh yeah, look at this, so many buttons to pick from. I'm going to try and pick a small button like this, mini fab button. So just clicking the view source, scrolling down here and just grabbing the button of, let's say, primary right here. This one I'm going to use. Let's just jump to our code and just go to our list view to kind of test if this is actually working. Going to the HTML, and we have a button right here. I'm just going to add the minifab part and the color of primary right here, and just keep the rest of it as button S right now. And instead of add customers, I'm just going to add a small plus sign right here for now, like this, and let's see if it works. Jumping back to my code, and there we go. Look at this. Now we have Materialize. When I click it, blink, you'll get the blink effect. Blink, it's running, right? Again, just adding a bit of styling, just adding a bit of UI for this, a bit of making it a bit more pretty. So that was step one. Now it's up and running. You have Angular Materialize up and running on your machine. Next is just figuring out how to use all the crazy components. So let me make a small example just like I did with Bootstrap. See you next time. Have fun.